A good Erev Shabbos. It's a phenomenon worth chuckling at various points throughout the year. A Jew becomes an amateur plumber, sometimes an amateur electrician or carpenter. We're all carpenters at Sukkot when we're wandering around Home Depot asking the eternal question, does anybody work here? And following up with that ultimate amateur question, do you have a bracket that connects the thing on the side, so I want to put something on top of it? And we get those quizzical stares from the people who actually do work in Home Depot and know that parts have names. And a similar phenomenon at Pesach time when we have to figure out something to do with the sink or how to keep the oven on for all of Yom Tif if we don't have that wonderful yet expensive Shabbat mode range, which as it turns out doesn't always work exactly the way it's supposed to. Look, the Jewish people have been figuring out things for thousands of years. We'll figure out how to turn off the light in the fridge if that's what it takes. On the radio, you hear that ad for the Ontario Lottery, know your limit, play within it. Sometimes it seems as though the Jewish people don't always play within our limits. We've had many side conversations over the past 18 months with people who were concerned with the Jewish people's tendency to become amateur immunologists, amateur public health officials, and so on. If you become an amateur carpenter and part of your sukkah, God forbid, doesn't hold up in the wind, what's the worst that happens? Or if you don't put the washer exactly right inside the sink handle, so it'll leak. You'll have to put a bucket under the sink until Chol Hamoed, when you can call a real plumber and get it fixed properly. An irritant, but hardly the end of the world. Amateur immunologists and amateur public health experts are a different story. To our regret, it seems some have taken decision-making into their own hands and acted against the trend of caution. Now, looking back over this whole crazy pandemic era, we have to admit that it's never been exactly easy to know what to do. Communication from government officials has rarely, if ever, been abundantly clear. There's been a good bit of ambiguity and gray areas, not always easy to figure out what we're supposed to do. There were occasions, like last year, Rosh Hashanah, Erev Rosh Hashanah, when the Ontario government threw a very unsettling bit of news our way and put a wrench in our already awkward high holiday plans. And here we are again in a place we did not think we'd see again, schools trying to open in the fall in a wise and prudent fashion, and us in Shul trying to accommodate everyone who feels ready to come back to Shul for Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur in the wisest and most prudent fashion that we can, making communal davening possible as best we can, at the same time offering everyone the best balance of caution and safety that we possibly can. The troubling reality is that every time we come together, we absorb a small amount of risk, and really none of us are qualified to judge precisely, so we all hopefully err on the side of caution. The balance is, as we've experienced over these last 18 months, staying home is not particularly conducive to emotional and mental well-being. If you're the type who enjoys sitting quietly and reading, and I will admit that is my idea of a good day, then it hasn't been so bad. But month after month, year after year, even the introverts among us are eager to see people and say hello at the Kiddush once in a while. Let's just review quickly our plan as it stands now, a little bit more than 2 weeks away from the beginning of the high holidays, for our davening at Kehillat Shari Torah. Let's be clear about two things. Your officiants, that's our beloved Chazanim, Pesach Goldman, Chaim Mori Saperman, and your shofar blower, that's me, have been double vaccinated. That's good entree to encourage and implore anyone who has not yet managed to get the vaccine to please do everything in your power to get it now. If you're hesitant, err on the side of caution and get vaccinated. If you're unsure, err on the side of caution and get vaccinated. I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but I would personally encourage anyone not vaccinated to continue isolation, even if it means missing out on high holiday services until you're able to get the vaccine. Vaccine is not magic, not by any stretch, but now virtually all the people getting sick in the U.S. are those who were not vaccinated. I'm not sure if, according to halacha, Jewish law, a person is even allowed to take such risks with their own health, let alone the health and well-being and safety of other people. At the same time, let's reassure everyone that in Shul we are taking the most precautions we can to support safety and health for everyone. We've upgraded our air filtration system in the building circulation. We've added auxiliary air filters, which you can see around the shul. We will be maintaining 2 meters distancing in the shul. And as such, we'll be running a minyan upstairs as well as downstairs if necessary, and expect to be able to accommodate everyone who requested a ticket over the past few weeks. Of course, we cannot guarantee that coming to shul is 100% risk-free. If we could do that, we would, without a doubt. But we are doing all we can to meet or exceed the public health guidelines. Of course, we'll all continue to wear our masks over the holidays and going forward until the day we understand it's safe to go without them. Remember that we are taking all the precautions and observing the guidelines as we did a year ago, even before the vaccines had arrived. For those who are not yet ready to come to shul on the high holidays, let's be clear that we respect that and appreciate their inclination. The shul will be full to the maximum allowed with physical distancing, and we will be here for a couple of hours, even though we do plan to slightly abridge our davening, just as we did last year. Still, those who take the precaution of davening at home, we want to encourage you to feel safe and secure in that. Obviously, it goes without saying, but we'll say it anyway, that Hashem hears our prayers with Rahmanas from wherever we daven from. And also when there's a question of a risk to a person's health, in the Rambam's view, that outweighs the concerns of, for example, davening with a minyan. Please be assured those davening at home will be thinking of you with us, and we hope that you will think of us. We have learned many things over this pandemic era, and one of them is how to feel together and connected even when we are physically apart. It's noteworthy that among the 74 mitzvahs contained in this week's parsha, there are several devoted to public health specifically. We had the admonition a few weeks ago in Parshas V'eschanan, V'nishmartem ba'od l'nafshosechem, you should guard your health very carefully. This week's parsha commands soldiers at war to carry equipment and actually to prepare sanitary facilities outside the military camp, even in times of war. At all times, even under duress, we have to do whatever is possible within our power to maintain our health and our well-being. So these mitzvahs speak to us across the generations to ensure that we do what we can to maintain our health to the best of our knowledge. Let's take a look quickly at one more mitzvah of the many in this parsha, the mitzvah of fulfilling pledges. Moitzas fasecha tishmor, says Parsha Ki Seitzei at the end of Revi'i, chapter 23, verse 24. Be careful to carry out what your lips utter. V'asisa kasher nadarta l'Hashem Elokecha. Whatever you have pledged to God your God, nedava asher dibarta b'ficha, the pledge you have spoken with your mouth. Rav Hirsch on this verse cites the Gemara in Tractate Shavuos, which deals with vows. That's the one that talks all about vows, to see contrasts and similarities, where the Torah says expressly here that which your lips utter, that which you have spoken, and other verses in different places say nediv leiv, the commitments you make internally without actually verbalizing, putting them into words. There's also an expression in Mishnah Trumais of ba'inan piv v'libay shavin, that one's intentions, in other words, the feelings of your heart, your thoughts, and your words should be in sync. Then again, sitting around the house for the last year and a half, we could be forgiven if we were found talking to ourselves. And at the same time, a lot of what we wanted to verbalize went unsaid, if for no other reason that there was simply no one around to talk to. Assuming that we all thought at some point or other we would use this time wisely to accomplish something important, let's return to that thought in the weeks that remain between now and Rosh Hashanah. I'm aware of people in our Kehillah who used this time to study the weekly Parsha in depth with the commentaries, of course asking their own questions alongside the questions of the sages over the centuries, and they came up with new questions and new insights and understandings. Now, make no mistake, there is nothing like taking part in public Torah reading. This is a tradition handed down to us from Moshe Rabbeinu, and for 3.5 millennia we've been gathering in communities wherever and whenever to read the Torah publicly. And yet, taking some quiet time on your own to look into the book with peace of mind and quiet, it's a beautiful thing. Others have taken the time to daven at their own pace, neither hurried nor distracted by the demands of davening with the minyan in shul. Not only last Rosh Hashanah and Kippur, but all the Shabbosos in between, and even some of the weekdays. There have been comments about how people enjoyed and benefited from davening and taking their own sweet time, understanding more fully and deeply the words of the prayers, and feeling a sense of accomplishment in that. Now, make no mistake, there's nothing like davening with a minyan. There are so many positive and important benefits to communal prayer. It's a worthwhile, it's a valuable goal, even for the effort and commitment that it takes. It helps our prayers, we help and support each other, and it's important. And yet, allowing ourselves to be embraced by and give ourselves over to the act of prayer when we couldn't come to shul, that's a worthwhile and a beautiful thing. Of course, learning is always a key part of who we are as Jews, especially for those who think that they already know. With every turn of the page of a sefer, we see how much there still is for us to learn and understand more deeply. So, the time that we've all taken to participate in shiurim online, listen to things live streamed or recorded, and open up our own sfarim and deepen our knowledge and understanding has unquestionably been worthwhile and valuable. Now, as all that relates to Nedava Asher Dibarta, fulfilling what you have promised, whether or not you promised yourself verbally or wordlessly that you would spend more time engaging with ideas of Torah and Judaism, the good news is there's still time. There's a view that all the days of the month of Elul really should be Yom Tov. That's how special and holy this month is, how close God is to us always, but especially accessible in these days. Another view says treat the 10 days of Teshuvah like Chol HaMoed. Don't do any work that isn't absolutely necessary. Rather, focus on the project of making peace among ourselves and peace within ourselves. And the mitzvah that everything we promise we should fulfill is, like all other mitzvahs in the Torah, not simply a command, something we're obliged to do, we must do. It comes with the empowerment necessary to the task. If God asks us, it must be possible, because God would not ask the impossible of us. It's within our grasp. Not only that, but when we dig deeply, we discover the strength and the ability which perhaps we didn't even know we had. So may we all surprise ourselves in these last 2 weeks of the year with good resolutions and following through on them, and in abundant good health, may we all be inscribed and sealed in the book of life for a sweet new year. Shabbat Shalom.